Hello and welcome to Transcending Ascension. Here we are for our episode where we go through the Gospel of Thomas. Now, I am testing here the Streamline platform for the first time. I used to use Zoom and then I tried Google Hangouts, and not a fan of either, although Google Hangouts does not work for this because it will hang up your own call if you're the only one there. So why they offer that as a thing they do for YouTube is beyond me. But here we are testing StreamYard. I used it yesterday when I was a guest on a podcast. If you want to check out my Twitter. It is linked inside there, or I can even link it here below to get to. For today, we are coming back to discuss the Gospel of Thomas, like we said we were going to do last time, as I am a metaphysical minister now, Reverend Dyanna, here to walk you through metaphysically the Gospel of Thomas. So the Gospel of Thomas, in case you weren't aware, was excluded from the original Bible. And the reasons why these texts were excluded is because they have more of the esoteric information that the Vatican would not have wanted us to have. So we are going to discuss the Gospel of Thomas, and I do apologize. The children are home, so there will be noise in the background, and we're just going to get it done anyways, though. Here we go. Those are the secret sayings that the living Jesus spoke and Didymus Judas Thomas recorded. So this is what's happening here in the Gospel of Thomas. This is our opening phrase. If you're not familiar with the Bible, this reads just like all the other Gospels, except that it will mention things that clearly shine in an esoteric light. So then they're numbered too as well, which is interesting because allegedly, or maybe that's just the Old Testament, wasn't numbered. And he said, whoever discovers the interpretations of these sayings will not taste death. And that right there is your shout out for enlightenment, because when we enlighten, we no longer have to continue on that wheel of samsara and continuously come back into the karmic circling of our lives and popping back out again and again and again and again, where we would die to the self and be reborn as a new self. So if we enlighten, the whole point that all these teachings point to, and the Gospels as well, is that we will continue. So when I die, I will stay Dyanna for a long time in a different realm, that heavenly realm, and not have to just, this is why we all feel exhausted a lot of the times. It's because we've been here a lot. Jesus said, those who seek should not stop seeking until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed. When they are disturbed, they will marvel and will reign over all. And after they have reigned, they will rest. So that goes into our previous point here. When you get into that power, but it's got the disturbed there. And it's funny, in the podcast yesterday, I mentioned how like you can get psychically injured when you learn this stuff, disturbed, because this information, esoteric information, occult, hidden information, there's some of the times like people say that it was hidden from us, not to keep us down, but to keep us safe. We weren't intelligent enough to know better, and we would have done nothing but chaos with it. Well, even now that we are more intellectual, it can still injure us. And you have to do things like meditate and take care of yourself to get through that. So that disturbed is really on key there. And then you will reign, you will become a powerful being. But then afterwards, you actually get to rest instead of coming back right away on that cycle. And of course, this is my minister, Reverend Dyanna's interpretation of these texts. Now, this is what pastors, preachers, and fathers and all that do, is we take in our own divine alignment and take the words that we read in holy texts and bring it down and tell you our interpretation of it. What I can tell you is I'm definitely connected with the divine. I connect with the divine when I read these to you. But if it does not resonate with you, this is what we need to learn for all spiritual teachers, is they are not Lord and Laird of the land. You are. of your own internal soul. There's 8 billion people, so there's 8 billion perspectives. And of course, you're probably not going to bother listening with me if you don't agree with me. But let's say for whatever particular reason you like me, as some will come to do when they, and this isn't so much me, I'm not that level yet. And I'm probably not the kind of person you're going to like if you don't like, but there's some people that are all, and you will fall for the show because they're glitzy and glammy and they say everything perfect, but that does not mean everything they're saying is right. And for example, like one sentence, I might have it spot on, but the next one I don't. So we always want to use our own discernment, feel inside our own. This is why we want to be aligned and feel what the truth is of you, because that thirsty thing you hear referenced back to Jesus all the time, they're thirsty for the word of God. That's real. And that thirstiness wants to be filled up. Oh, he's dumping my plants. That thirstiness wants to be quenched. So when you hear information that is quenching your thirst, it's worth listening to, even if later on you grow out of it. Like the Galactic Federation. I wanted to believe that at one point, but it never sit right. But it did sit for a little bit, and then it didn't at all because it led me to something else. So teachings will do that, right? And just so you know, this is part 1 of the Gospel of Thomas. There's a good chance we won't get through it all just because I'm on kid timeline here. So whenever poo hits the fan, I'm going to go. But I'm going to allow the dirt playing. That's my Andy Drew. He likes that. Jesus said, if your leaders say to you, look, the Father's kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the Father's kingdom is within you, and it is outside you. When you, I lost my place, know yourself, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father. But if you do not know yourself, then you live in poverty, and you are the poverty. So right there, when you know yourself, you will be known. So what's that famous saying I always love to quote back to is know thyself, because being in alignment is knowing thyself. So you hear this throughout all the teachings, and that's the most important thing I picked out of that. And again, this is what we do when we read Gospels, is we go through, we pick the things that ping for us. I'm not going to make up interpretations based off blah, 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 like the pastors and preachers have been doing in the past. We're going to talk about what pings for relevance, like the astrologers will do with the sky and the tarot readers will do with the tarot. We're going to do it with the Gospels, and the ones that you probably have not read yet. That's why I could go through the New Testament. It's great too. They probably diddled with it a little. I'm not sure, but these ones are way more pure. You can just tell. So here we go. Jesus said, the person old in days won't hesitate to ask a little child 7 days old about the place of life, and that person will live. For many of the first will be last and will become a single one. So that right there is just showing that, like, when a baby is born, it's so fresh from the soul. Like, I've had 3, and that's one of the saddest things about, I don't plan to have any more, is like, am I just allowed to grab other people's newborns and just smell them? And then in the same sense, like, my second son is autistic, and this is silly. Tell me I'm wrong, but I used to love to breathe in his baby essence. He had such a powerful baby essence that, like, I'm worried that I breathe in too much because I'm naturally magical without even trying. And so then when my third son came around, I literally would like fight myself off from like breathing in the baby essence, because babies have that like powerful essence where it's like a smell, but it's not a smell. Like, people like say, oh, I love that baby smell. It's more than the baby smell, because it exists even when they're poopy or whatever. Trust me, as a mom, it exists regardless. When they have their dewy, sticky skin, it's like during that phase, like the first week, and then babies are always amazing, but like that essence, slowly but surely, like, it doesn't go away. You always have an essence, like even as an adult, hopefully you have an essence, that's to say. if you are, aligning and stuff, if you've lost any sort of an essence, that's being dead within yourself, where your soul's completely disconnected. So you don't want that. But the newborn baby is so fresh. Like I've always said, like people are like, why do babies just constantly cry? And some people make the pain analogy, and yes and no, maybe. But I think like a part of them, like they say, like you come in forgetting. What if you forget when you're a baby? Like the screaming and the crying is actually like an adult old man going, what's happening? You know what I mean? Because like they can't move now. I thought it would almost be like switching to being like a paraplegic in an awful way. But that's just a random guess. And because babies do cry a lot if they don't have every single need met. But that's another topic. The person, Jesus said, know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. For there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and there is nothing buried that will not be raised. And this is just karma playing itself out. Like you will not get away with anything. Every rooster will come to nest, all those sayings, because when you create a vibration, it exists almost into infinity. It will eventually become part of like the waves of the ocean. There's the waves of the universe, and it'll just join in on that mass. But it's all going to come and it's all going to go. Now, will every little actual secret come out? I guess we'll find out. We're in the great reveal. So if you have any secrets that you don't want to come out, but then they come out, let me know. Comment below. Be like, oops, that came out. I don't know how. Well, because it was foretold that everything will come out. His disciples asked him and said to him, do you want us to fast? How should we pray? Should we give to charity? What diet should we observe? Jesus said, don't lie and don't do what you hate, because all things are disclosed before heaven. After all, there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and there's nothing covered up that will remain undisclosed. You know what's funny? That's what I just read, and I swear I'm reading it as something different. And I'm reading again in that first line, like, do you want us to fast, pray, charity, diet? They're showing even then, like, what we have right now in the spiritual community, and it's just like, as a person who wants to put myself in it as well, I'm literally like almost judging myself as I look around at people that are like, we're all independent, so we're not coworkers. But like, as you look around at the others, it's just like, I'm not sure how I've decided how I want to do this, but like they're doing it in a very ego, old world way, where they're making it very razzmatazz, very glitz and glam, very give me your money, very if we do this, you'll be fine. But it's their program. Like, and I'm pro fasting, I'm pro meditating, prayer, yes, but praying as in the Neville Goddard, seeing it as happening, like, thank you for making this happen kind of thing. It's very desperate when I'll be like, oh, please. But it happens, especially when you've lost, you think one of your kids are gone and they've just fallen asleep with blankets over them, like literally horrifying. But she was fine. She was just sleeping with blankets on her. And I didn't know she was napping, but that was a moment where I was like, I'll do anything. And then who knows, maybe poof, now she was just sleeping in the bed. But prayer has its moments, but it can be, you're giving away your power, especially if you're praying like the please God, because it's all about I've said that enough, like vibrations, words, thoughts, make your reality, right? Jesus said, lucky is the lion that the human will eat, so that the lion becomes human, and foul is the human that the lion will eat, and the lion still will become human. Now this one, I could make stuff up about that, but I'll let you decide on that one. Like, I don't want to make stuff up about that one. I'm getting not many pings there. It's sometimes like poetry, like poetry is like super activating sometimes. And then other times you're like, okay, that sounded cool. Like, I'm not unpleased, but I'm not going to say I super get it. And that's okay. Just walk away from those. I find like they pull the most ridiculous stuff out of the Bible when they're like, no, this means that. And it's like, yeah, I don't think you even believe that. You can take those words and make it seem like that, sure. But like when I say something means something, it's because I feel it within my divine spark and I feel it within my alignment. Like it is what it is in my truth. And that's the best we can do, really. That's the best we can ever do, because scientists are going to painfully find out nothing is for sure, because anything at any moment can change Like the way atoms work, dude, like the possibilities are unlimited, unlimited. And he said, the person is like a wise fisherman who cast his net into the sea and drew it up from the sea full of little fish. Among them, the wise fisherman discovered a fine, large fish. He threw all the little fish back into the sea and easily chose the large fish. And everyone here with two good ears had better listen. Now, one thing I'll say right there is when you hear those with ears that hear, and I have to fight myself from saying that during my own show because I feel like it's presumptuous, but like when I say something, you kind of know this is when I'm on the fly in my like channeling-ish connected state where I'm just pulling from the divine. Sometimes I can tell it sounds super poetic, but I know what it means. So like rather than break it down for like the layman and which is probably going to go over their head anyways, it's you for those who have ears, let them hear, because it's kind of pointing out I just said something very profound there. So it could take those that like feel like they might be close to the ability that weren't super like checked in to be like, okay, let's try again, to like hear that. And you'll usually find higher profound wisdom in that. So let's go back. The person is like a wise fisherman who cast his net into the sea and drew up from the sea full of little fish. Ah, yes. Well, he threw them all back for the big fish. Yes, this one I already have my own theories on. And that is, why should I like, let's say someone like Eckhart Tolle wasn't awake yet, and I'm the teacher, but I sense his power. Like he's one of those guys where you just, I've never met him. I've never even been close to him, but you sense something's up there. There's something there. He's a big fish. So if I'm trying to get a bunch of different people to like learn the truth, but then I feel and see him, but he's not awake yet, I'm going to focus in on him, because if he wakes up, Eckhart Tolle, now look what we got. The power of now, right? So probably one of the most awakening books out there right now to just completely get you over the whole ego hump. So that's an example right there of casting your net to the big fish, and we're all the better for it. Jesus said, look, the sower went out and took a handful of seeds and scattered them. Some fell on the road and the birds came and gathered them. Others fell on the rocks and they didn't take root in the soil and didn't produce heads of grain. Others fell on thorns and they choked the seeds and worms ate them. And others fell on the good soil and it produced a good crop. It yielded 60 per measure and 120 per measure. So this one is in the actual Bible. And on some of these crossover, just like in the Gospels, in the Bible, where you see them throughout, like all the different disciples wrote about it as well, meaning it's probably extra profound, or who knows why they didn't cross-reference notes at the time and be like, oh, that's in mine, don't put it in yours. I actually found that very helpful in the Bible, and I think it's the chapter of Luke, which is the only one that like takes it out like a story and gives you a wider perspective of everything that actually went on, but it did say like the same major points. So this is the one that's actually still in the actual gospel. And it's very powerful. And that's similar to the thing we were saying earlier about the big fish, but it's looking where you cast your seeds. So again, am I going to go into a bunch of dudes at a bar watching a hockey game and try to tell them about metaphysics? No, they'd probably throw, if this is back in the days when there's peanuts, they'd throw peanuts at me, or they would not be pleased. And I would get called all kinds of bad names and degrading things to women, I'm sure. You know what I mean? So that's casting my seeds on the wrong place. Or the birds came and gathered them. I could tell a bunch of girls that are like, and tell them, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. That's so interesting. And there might even be like the odd one that's like actually thinks it's interesting. But after I leave, the nasty girls are going to be like, what a loser. Did you hear what she said? Oh my God. Like, girls are going to do that. So then what's happening? The birds are picking those seeds out of the couple or one girl's head that actually was starting to be like, like she might have wanted to wake up, but the seeds were taken away. They were taken away. This is why if you want to awaken, you have to start limiting who you tell it to, because even within the spiritual world, there's so many differentiations on our own lived experience that even like, this is why I'm saying like, take your things out of what I teach you, because Everything means something different to everybody else. Everything is perception. Everything is your own symbols. Everything is your own universe that's layered. Again, that was in that podcast. You gotta check it out. But everything is layered. I tell you guys all the time, anyways, actually. So if you've watched me, you know, like we're layered. Everybody's reality is its own layer of that matrix. Like, you know, the matrix symbols, right? That's it. All of us. So it's okay to disagree, but be aware of it and watch spreading your truth to other people if you're not strong enough and they can just take that and run away. And everybody, because that's just the way collective consciousness humans are, is susceptible to other people's opinions. So just don't feel bad about that, but be careful. Jesus said, I have cast fire upon the world, and look, I'm guarding it until it blazes. Now, this is perfect because, yes, Jesus is the one. Like, he's the one that did it the best. And Buddha was amazing too, but they didn't write anything Buddha did down for like 200 years after he died. So he could have even been better for all we know. Some of the writers wrote about him being super magical and flying around and, you know, mixing up his peoples 1,000 times over, like, you know, making more people of himself. It's just all this silly magic that's like, okay, maybe similar to Jesus in the breaking of the bread. Like maybe he did that. That's super cool. But it doesn't change the effect of what like his information did for us, because I'm a firm believer that Jesus was here to tell us that we are God. That he says here, not I don't in this one, but in multiple God. I've read them all, but I'm going through it again with you guys. Well, I don't know if I've actually read every one, but I've read a lot of them. And you just really have to stick with it to start to see the things that it can do for you, because he's always been here, and Christ consciousness, and he is going to set the world ablaze, and that's happening right now. And I hesitate to mention, but that just made me think of it, that blaze. I'm just going to say this, that ship crash that happened looked like a bomb for sure. I watched multiple videos, not for fear porn, just to figure it out, because you always need to know what happened so that you can integrate it, but then let it go. So I do believe that was a bomb, but regardless of who did it, it is a distraction, and we need to hold the powers that be accountable for what they're doing. Do not let this distract us. They are trying to get away with so much because we are waking up, and so many disclosures have come out. And the thing is they've been coming out for a long time, like Julian Assange, can't say his last name. The information's already out. It's just enough people now realize it that they're finally like, okay, well, why are we still voting for these people? Why are we voting left, right? Why? In every country too. That shows you how serious this is. It's not just an American problem. I'm Canadian. It's happening here too. It's happening everywhere. So I'm super suspicious. And even if something did happen and it wasn't on purpose to be distraction, you sure as shit know that they're going to use it for distraction anyways. Regardless of if that was, the foul play was definitely part of it. Regardless of whatever microcosm you want to find that foul play, definite foul play there. But don't let it distract you. Don't let it be the fear porn that it's gonna end up being. So, or don't let it be that. Okay. We are on number 11, and I always wanted to go through the Bible and write down all the 11s, the 22s, the 33s, because those are profound. I'm an 11. Jesus said, this heaven will pass away and the one above it will pass away. Now that just means we're not done. The dead are not alive and the living will not die. During the days when you ate, what is dead? You made it come alive. When you are in the light, what will you do? On the day when you were one, you became two. But when you become two, what will you do? So 1 and 2, like that's God, the genderless God that's neither male nor female, becoming 2. But then this heaven will pass away. This is like one of those poetry ones, unless, I read a lot of the Bible, even these ones, as poetry. And none of the realms are permanent. All realms will fade away. Nothing besides the all of God itself, like its self, is immortal. Like only God is immortal, but we're all God within that cycling. So like Dyanna will eventually fade away, even if I finish enlightening, because enlightening is stages and it's basically the exact same thing as ascension, although ascension is more all of us, where a single person can enlighten. I feel like the ascension term is more like global. Either way, it's in stages, but then you do hit a point where you finally crack open the sky like Jesus and Buddha is said to have done. And bam, that's when you're the ripple that lasts for thousands of years. And we are primed for a bunch of us to do that soon. Like I'm obsessed with it. That's my goal. Like there's constant there's like just never ending people that this is the goal. Like this wasn't a goal en masse before. And there's something to be said about the monks. I think they're great. And I'm glad we had monks. And I'm sure that's doing vibrational cleansing for the earth. But they're not the whole thing either, because you got to take both and put them together. This is why like the theories of Jesus being a regular man are somehow more powerful. And that Jesus didn't die, but he went and had kids and a wife. The fact that a normal person could achieve that level of enlightenment, now that's amazing, because we're also like God's avatars, which I say all the time. Well, do you think God wants to come down here to just sit around and go, oh, we can sit around and do that in other realms where we're just watching life. We're here to be physical. That God wanted to live inside the animal. Like, you know, we saw the animals and we're the only like physical thing. So, you know, he's going to want to live actual life, but not horrible life, like a good heavenly life. And that's the whole point, because the more we make ourselves pure, the more the divine actually comes down into us, and the more we are integrating that. And that's activating your 6th and 7th chakra. That's those positions. Like the 6th is seeing more of God. Then of course you got your throat, where you are speaking more of God. Like I utilize my throat chakra continuously. And I have old stories that was hilariously pointing to this fact my whole life. And then the crown is your divine that's always there. It's just whether or not, if you have that 6th going, and a ton of us, if you're a starseedy person, we're born with the 6th chakra already open. Like you hear about opening it, it's already open. Like, I don't know about you, but I saw things as a child, and then you just get gaslit out of it and away you go. But it's still always open. It doesn't close, but now you just need to work on activation and how to use it like an atrophied muscle. And that's going to also help the divine be part of your avatar, because that's, you know, all part of that enlightening goal. And staying pure is why it's always such a thing with the old Bible. Staying pure is important, actual purity. And we're only talking New Testament. The other can be read as a fun historical thing, but the New Testament is the only one that's got your enlightenment advice. Okay. The disciples said to Jesus, "We know that you are going to leave us. Who will be our leader?" Jesus said to them, "No matter where you are to go to James the Just, for whose sake heaven and earth came into being." Now, that I'll admit I don't get, except that I know that one of the Jameses is his actual brother. And whether or not Joseph is his father, it's still his half brother. So that's just hilarious, because like shout out to his bro, like right at the end, like go to James, he's the best. But I'm pretty sure there's 2 Jameses in the overall circle. So might not be brother James, but it might be a different James. Jesus said to his disciples, "Compare me to something and tell me what I am like." Simon Peter said to him, "You are like a just messenger." Matthew said to him, "You are like a wise philosopher." Thomas said to him, "Teacher, my mouth is utterly unable to say what you are like." Jesus said, "I am not your teacher because you have drunk and you have become intoxicated from the bubbling springs that I have tended." And he took him and withdrew and spoke 3 words to him. When Thomas came back to his friends, they asked him, "What did Jesus say to you?" Thomas said to them, "If I tell you one of the sayings he spoke to me, you will pick up rocks and stone me, and fire will come from the rocks and devour you." So that's an example there of how he even told within his own apostles different things that he even told them, because he could sense that they were ready and the others weren't. So that would be things like, you yourself are God. You yourself are going to live every experience. You yourself, and this doesn't mean turn to solipsism, because it is all variance. And right now we are all different frequencies. Right now we all are different people. But the way time and space works, you're going to pop in and be all those people. And that is depressingly exhausting. It's like, be careful what you wish for. I was obsessed with immortality and being a vampire. Funny enough, I have like these weird dots of a vampire. That just popped up out of nowhere one day when I was in my obsession. So that's hilarious. Be careful what you wish for, because that's not a good thing. I probably brought down myself tons of trouble. But you need to kind of start working that muscle of understanding that you are God and you're going to do every experience. So I'll leave that there, because that one can send you into tailspins for a long, long time. And there's no escaping it. Jesus said to them, if you fast, you will bring sin upon yourself. And if you pray, you will be condemned. And if you give to charity, you will harm your spirit. When you go into any region and walk about in the countryside, when people take you in, eat what they serve you and heal the sick among them. After all, what goes into your mouth will not defile you. Rather, it's what comes out of your mouth that will defile you. Well, that one's obvious. And I'm constantly teaching about vibrations and so like I don't even need to tell you that one. I hope you know. Every word you say manifests your entire life in this current experience. And yeah, that just sounds like personal advice and what they were actually doing. But then if you fast, you will sin upon yourself. And if you pray, you will be condemned. And if you give to charity, you will harm your spirit. Now that one's like, ugh, unless you compare it with the bottom one and the defile you. Because if you're also going about saying bad words and then doing all that stuff, yeah, because you're fasting for no reason. If you're fasting not in a spiritual way, that's called anorexia. And that's sinning upon yourself. And if you pray, you will be condemned. Well, again, that's assuming you're defiling yourself. So that's like that earlier prayer was saying, oh, please, just why don't you give me what I want? Boo-hoo. And then next, give to charity. Well, if you're giving to charity, well, there's two reasons nowadays. And one is to be like, no, the Walmart thinks that I have to. Ugh, I don't want to. So you don't want to, which I fight myself now to not do that, because I know those charities out of the Walmarts and all those places are boning you. They give like 10% to charity and the rest go in billionaires' pockets. Or millionaires. It's not going where you need it. So you're better just to shop local as a charity, seriously, because it's desperately needed. If that's what you're going for, find your own charity, blah, blah, blah. But if you're charity, you're giving to charity, but you're going, look how amazing I am. I am so fantastic. Well, now you're being a pompous, prideful person, and that will also harm your spirit. So I would have to take this and combine it into this. And then this just sounds like personal advice during the lived time they're in right now. So that's what I would take from that one. I'm going to go one more and then we'll call it quits. As I just had a little girl peeking on in, and I should get them off to bed. But Jesus said, when you see one who is not born of woman, fall on your faces and worship. That one is your father. And that's interesting, because that kind of points out, like, if you want to believe in aliens or anything, that means every single one of them is born of a woman, born of a female, whatever they might call it, assuming physical aliens are even a thing, which again, we discussed yesterday in the podcast. And if you are not born of a woman, what does that mean? The all, because the all is the all, and the all made the girl first. It have to. And then the girl burst out what we actually call the father, but they use this term. He still calls it the father, but it's very clear it's the all, like the all. The all is genderless. That's why it's not born of a woman. It has always existed. It is the all that is anything. So I'll leave that there. That's only 15 in, and I'll have to write that down to remember. So we still got a long way to go. I don't know how long we've been going. Let's go back to the original screen. Does it tell me? Oh, 34 minutes. That's actually not as long as I thought. But I don't want to super bore you, and I don't know. I'm running out of the energy to read out loud. That's like when I do my audiobook thing. I like doing it, but like, by the end, that was like a workout when you got to like read and read and read, and like you run out of air and there's no time to take a deep breath like you normally would. And you could probably hear me deep breathing. So you just try not to breathe. Next thing you know, you're suffocating, and yeah, you're ending your podcast because you can't breathe. No, I got to take the kids to bed. But that's okay. We got through it and they were very, very, very good. StreamYard seems cool. I'll have to watch back the video after. I'm delayed. I can see that. But other than that, I like it. It didn't hang up on me, Google Hangout. And then Zoom doesn't do live broadcasting, I don't think. That's why I got rid of Zoom. But I used to use Zoom for my webinars when I was doing those. I didn't like those either. I keep trying to find what I'm supposed to do. I know I want to teach, but and life coaching, I don't know. I'll still help people that really want to try. I said that yesterday too. If you really want to try, I'm there. But like, I need to make a new, like, I am not nice. I am at first because I have patience, obviously. And I am nice. I've never said anything mean to anybody, but you start to get like the pushover, and then they steal your vampires. They steal your energy. If you just let anybody, family member, friend, anybody you know that wants to weigh away, I've said this before in many episodes, but weigh away about their issues, and then you tell them solutions, and they don't listen, and they want to keep coming back going away. That's where it's like, but I told you the solution. Did you even try? And fine if you want to like ignore my advice as a friend or family, but as a life coach, what's the point if we're not going to listen? So maybe as a minister, I have a metaphysical degree, which I've been working on for a while now. And I finally have it. And with it came my ministry and my reverendness, which is amazing because all I care about is God. That's all I want to do. And I'm totally like one of those Christians. I got to spread the word. You got to know the word, because you do. You do. I've been like the super sad atheist, and the Christians, because I tried going to church, I've said that before, are not like, they're not any happier. They are just as miserable, and except they go, but the Lord thinks blah, blah, blah. No, like, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it all wrong. And I can't just keep, and then I got to just look my mouth, because I am really big on like giving advice. I love it. It's my thing. I was a very complicated person and healed almost like pretty much all of it. I actually healed like, I think, all of my old stuff. But as I'm progressing, new stuff like the ability to breathe while I read, like I'm finding new things that need to be healed. So that's always how the life is going to work. As you work up, you like have more darkness up top, and then you're working, but like it goes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it doesn't mean that things get harder. It's funny because you get stronger. I don't know. It's good. I recommend it. And this is like, all I want to do is tell you about it. And teach you and awaken you. And then there's the selfish fact that like, the more you awaken, the more I can awake, because you spread it out too, and you make it easier for me and everybody else that wants to awaken. That's why so many people are awakening now more en masse. It's because it's like the landslide effect. This is like when they say about waves, right? And the first wave, the second wave, the third wave. Like the first would have been after the nuclear bomb, although that Barbara girl was born before that. So it's like they knew that was going to happen. The Barbara, it's just an H. But she was really on this stuff early on. She just recently passed. There's not a lot of girls, so you might already know about her. And she was actually a researcher. She wasn't like a channeler. She was actually like an educated person. I'm not like, I do a bit of channeling myself. I don't let an entity actually in, but like when you are in alignment, you bring down information that you go like, whoa, where'd that come from? But like, I never completely relinquish the self. I think that's very dangerous. Matthias Stefano does it though, so I think everything he does is cool. He is just the top notch of any teacher there's ever been, and possibly, I mean, like we all want to get to his level, but he came in already knowing it all. Which, like when you're a bodhisattva, I'm the worst with terms. That you come in already knowing every life you've ever had, and then you're going to too tired, into being a Buddha. So obviously that's probably his path. So yay, he's finally done. What's that mean for the rest of us? Does that mean we're not done? Well, then this earth better get a lot better. So let's keep awakening. I'm going to keep preaching. Someone said they didn't like me saying that word. Well, I think it's a good word. Stop letting Christians ruin everything. They suck, and they're, well, that was rude. They don't suck, but they gotta go. A lot of things have to go. And like, not to be burned away forever, but like to transform, to transmute, to change. I know you don't like changing people, but that's your ego. I used to talk endlessly about the ego in the beginning, and to the point I got bored of it. And if you don't get the point of the ego yet, go back to my old stuff, because I'm done talking about it, because it's so obvious now and I'm so past that. And I have my moments where, like, just saying the Christians sucked, that was my ego. That's why I was instantly like, oh, don't say that, because you can get away from yourself still, like funny jokes. Like, I used to be very funny, but now I gotta like, because jokes can be dangerous. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But we're going to work through it. We're going to keep going. I'm going to push people higher and higher and higher. And if I live in a personal spiritual boot camp, so I know. I live it. I learn it. I be it, and I'm going to bring it to you. So here we end this today with Transcending Ascension. Check the link below if you want to see the podcast. It was great, and I recommend all of his material. And yeah, so we'll see you next time as we continue our part 2 of the Gospel of Thomas. See you then.